The starting point of silent justice. Some people think they can hurt you, walk away, and never have to face the music. They imagine you'll break, that you'll spiral into anger or waste years plotting revenge. They believe the chapter ends when they slam the door. But here's the truth they didn't see coming. Life has a memory. The universe keeps receipts. And the moment they planted that betrayal, that lie, that wound in your soul, they were planting seeds of their own undoing. You don't have to lift a finger. You don't have to fight fire with fire. Because something greater than you has already stepped in. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with quiet, precise justice. The kind that doesn't need an audience to be devastating. And the first blow? It's not losing money. It's not public shame. No, the very first thing to collapse is their own peace of mind. They'll smile in public, post happy updates online, act like they've moved on. But deep down, something starts to gnaw at them, a whisper they can't silence. When the distractions fade, when it's 2 a.m. and the room is dark, their mind starts replaying what they did. And that's when the cracks begin to form. See, you can hide from people, but you can't hide from your own conscience. That's why you don't need to chase revenge, because the quiet truth is, their real punishment has already begun. Part 1: Punishment from Within. No one escapes their own conscience. No matter how far someone runs. No matter how carefully they curate the perfect life on the outside. They can't outrun the voice inside their head. The mind remembers. The heart remembers. And those memories have a way of showing up when the world is quiet. I remember hearing a story about a woman whose closest friend abandoned her in the darkest season of her life. No explanation, no apology, just gone. For months, that friend seemed completely unaffected, laughing, traveling, posting pictures as if nothing had happened. But then, the cracks started to show. Mutual friends began to notice her sleepless nights. Not because of drama, not because anyone was confronting her, simply because the guilt wouldn't let her rest. Every time she heard a song they once loved, every time she passed the coffee shop they used to sit in, every time a quote about loyalty popped up in her feed, it was like a ghost tapping on her shoulder. Whispering, "Remember?" That's the thing about silence. People think it's weakness, but in reality, your silence becomes a mirror. It doesn't scream, it doesn't accuse, it simply reflects the truth back at them. And when they look into that mirror, they don't just see you, they see themselves, and what they became when they betrayed you. This is where emotional intelligence becomes your greatest power. You don't need to argue to prove them wrong. You don't need to seek revenge to feel strong. You let them live with the weight of what they've done. Because that weight is heavier than anything you could ever put on their shoulders. The loss of their own peace, that's the first warning shot from life. It starts as a passing thought. Then it becomes a recurring dream. Eventually, they dread the quiet, because that's when your face, your name, and the memory of what they did comes rushing back. And no matter what they post online, no matter how they try to distract themselves, deep down, they know. And you don't have to lift a finger. You're free. Part 2: The Law of Withdrawal. In Stoic philosophy, there's an unshakable truth. Every action has a consequence. It may not happen right away. It may not even be visible to the outside world. But it is inevitable. When someone hurts a person who is loyal, kind, and genuine, they don't just lose a relationship, they lose a blessing. And blessings are not something you can buy back or replace. That person's presence was a source of positive energy, a shield against life's storms, a silent anchor keeping things steady. The moment they violate that trust, that protection quietly leaves, and the world around them begins to shift. At first, nothing seems different. The sun still rises, their phone still lights up, people still laugh at their jokes. But slowly, almost invisibly, the law of withdrawal begins its work. Opportunities that once came easily start to disappear. Connections grow cold. Friends drift away for reasons they can't quite explain. Paths that used to be clear suddenly feel full of obstacles. And here's the key. This isn't punishment in the human sense. It's not about revenge. It's about rebalancing. The universe, God, life, whatever you believe in, has a way of restoring alignment. When someone chooses to betray goodness, they step out of harmony with that greater order. And life responds by quietly closing doors they were never meant to walk through anymore. Think of it like this. When you damage something sacred, loyalty, trust, love, you're not just hurting another person. You're disturbing a deeper design. And that design will remove its support from you. Not with rage, but with precision. That's why the most dangerous moment for someone who's caused harm isn't when you confront them. It's when life itself starts to retract its favor. No dramatic lightning strikes. No public scandals, just a slow, steady fading of the light they once stood in. And if you've been on the receiving end of that betrayal, remember, you don't need to watch it happen. You don't need to track their losses or hope for their downfall. Because the law of withdrawal works quietly, perfectly, and without error. Your only job is to keep moving forward, and let life handle the rest. Part 3: The mirror that reflects their actions. Life has a way of handing people back exactly what they've given. Betray someone, and sooner or later, you'll know what it feels like to be betrayed. Abandon someone who would have stood by you through anything. And one day, you'll taste the loneliness of being left behind. Make someone doubt their worth. And eventually, you'll live in that same fog of uncertainty. It doesn't happen overnight. At first, they think they've walked away untouched. They think the past is buried, that the slate is clean. But then, piece by piece, life starts arranging a mirror in front of them, not a literal one, but the kind you can't look away from. The kind that doesn't just show your reflection, it makes you feel it. Maybe it's meeting someone who plays the same mind games they once played. Maybe it's being ghosted without explanation after they invested their heart. Or maybe it's lying awake at night, wondering if they're too much or not enough. The same way they made you question yourself. And here's the truth. Emotional wounds cut far deeper than physical ones. A broken bone can heal in weeks. But the damage to your sense of trust, the erosion of your self-worth, that can take years to repair. And when life turns the tables, they start to understand the weight of what they did. They begin to taste the same confusion, the same ache, the same restless longing they once left you with. Except now, there's no one to explain, no one to comfort, no one to fix it. They're left to sit in the discomfort they once so easily handed to someone else. This isn't about revenge, it's about recognition. The recognition that what you put into the world, especially into the hearts of others, eventually comes home. And when it does, it doesn't just tap politely on the door, it walks in, uninvited, and makes itself comfortable. That's the mirror. It doesn't lie. It doesn't soften the edges. And it doesn't care if you're ready to face it. And the longer they look, the more they realize, this is exactly what I made someone else feel. Part 4: The power of absence. Sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is your absence. Not a speech, not an argument, not even a parting shot. Just silence. When you choose to walk away without the need to explain or defend yourself, you're sending a message louder than any confrontation could ever deliver. I've outgrown your chaos. You were the calm in their storm, the one who made the room feel lighter just by being in it. But here's the strange thing about peace: when people live in it long enough, they start to take it for granted. They confuse stability with boredom. They think kindness is something they're entitled to, rather than a gift they've been given. It's only after you're gone that they start to feel the difference. Suddenly, conversations feel shallow, laughter feels forced. The people around them might be louder, more exciting, but they don't bring the same sense of grounding you did. And deep down, they know it. I once heard a man admit this about a friend he'd lost. She was gentle, patient, endlessly kind, qualities he dismissed as unimportant at the time. He wanted more drama, more intensity, more excitement, so he let her slip away. Years later, after a string of broken friendships, failed relationships, and lonely nights, he realized she had been the blessing he'd been searching for all along. But by then, it was too late. Her number had changed, her life had moved on, and so had she. That's the quiet power of absence. It forces people to confront the truth without you having to say a word. They try to replace your energy, but they can't. They search for someone who listens the way you did, who cares without expecting, who steadies the room just by being in it, and they come up empty. And here's the real beauty. Your silence isn't revenge. It's evolution. It's you stepping into a space where their noise can't reach. Their drama can't touch, and their opinions no longer matter. You didn't disappear to punish them, you disappeared to protect yourself. Because the moment you remove your presence from the wrong place, you make space for the right things to find you. And that is a trade you will never regret. Part 5: The Delay of Justice. Justice doesn't always show up when you want it to. And at first, that feels unfair. You wonder, do they ever pay for what they did? Or do they just get to walk away smiling? But here's the thing, if justice came immediately, it wouldn't teach the right lesson. It would just feel like bad luck, or something they could blame on someone else. That's why life waits. It lets them settle into the illusion that they've won. It allows them to believe they got away clean. And then, when they've stopped looking over their shoulder, justice arrives quietly. But unmistakably, the delay isn't a punishment for you. It's protection. If it happened too soon, you might have stayed close just to witness it, still tied to them emotionally, still looking back. But with time, you've healed, you've grown, you've moved so far forward that when the consequences finally land, you won't even need to watch. You'll be too busy living. Think of it like a harvest. First, there's planting, then, a growing season, then, a long, silent stretch where nothing seems to happen above the surface. But roots are forming, the soil is doing its work, and when the season turns, the harvest comes, exactly on time. That's how life's justice works. What they planted in you, whether it was betrayal, lies, or abandonment, starts growing in their own life. Not instantly, not dramatically, but inevitably. And when the fruit appears, it's not just a random hardship, it's a reflection of what they've sown. So instead of asking, when will they get what they deserve? Ask yourself, what can I build while I wait? Use that space to strengthen your mind, your peace, your boundaries, because when the moment comes, it won't just be about them facing consequences, it will be about you standing taller than you ever have. Justice has its own rhythm. It doesn't run on your clock, but it's never late, and by the time it arrives, you'll realize you no longer needed to feel whole. Part 6: The Intervention of Divine Protection. Sometimes, you don't leave a situation because you decided to, you leave because something greater decided for you. You might think you lost a relationship, a friendship, or an opportunity, but what if that sudden ending wasn't a loss at all? What if it was a rescue? There are moments in life when we can't see the full picture. We see the smiles, the promises, the surface-level kindness, but God sees the closed-door conversations, the hidden intentions, the traps being set behind your back. He hears the laughter at your expense, the words you were never meant to hear, and instead of giving you one more warning sign, He simply pulls you out. And yes, it feels abrupt, confusing, even painful. You replay every moment, asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Could I have fixed this? But the truth is, you weren't meant to stay. Staying would have cost you more than you can imagine, not just your peace, but your spirit. I once heard a man admit something remarkable. He said there was a woman who loved him deeply, but he was selfish, he lied, manipulated, and used her kindness. Before he could break her completely, she disappeared. No fight, no long goodbye, she just vanished from his life. Years later, he realized it wasn't her choice at all, it was divine protection. She was removed before he could destroy something precious he wasn't qualified to hold. That's what divine protection looks like. It doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes disguised as heartbreak, as a slammed door, as a sudden goodbye you never got to explain. But it's surgical. It removes you from poison before it reaches your soul. And here's the most important part. Once that door closes, it doesn't reopen, not for nostalgia, not for half-hearted apologies, not for the sake of old times. Because protection is a one-way exit. By the time they're ready to be honest, you've already healed beyond their reach. So honor the exit. Don't chase explanations. Don't re-enter the room God has already pulled you from. Your absence in their life isn't punishment, it's preservation. And one day, you'll look back and realize, it wasn't rejection. It was protection all along. Part 7: The Value of Silence in Spiritual Warfare. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. People often think it means surrender, that you've given up, that you're too weak to fight. But in reality, silence can be the sharpest weapon you'll ever wield. Silence means you've decided not to fight battles that aren't yours. It means you understand that some wars are not won with louder voices, but with stronger restraint. It's a strategy, not a retreat. When you stay silent, you're not stopping karma from doing its work. You're stepping out of the way so it can. You're refusing to carry the weight of revenge, because you know revenge keeps you tethered to the very thing you're trying to heal from. Instead, you protect your peace like it's the most valuable currency you own, because it is. I've seen people ruin their own healing by chasing closure, by trying to force someone to admit they were wrong, by staying emotionally invested in someone who's already proven they can't be trusted. That's like trying to hold onto a burning coal just to throw it at someone else. You only burn yourself. But when you choose silence, something shifts. You create space for restoration, for elevation, for alignment with the life you're meant to live. You stop matching their chaos and start building your calm. The real reward isn't watching them face consequences. It's seeing yourself become stronger, wiser, more grounded than you've ever been. It's walking into rooms with quiet confidence, knowing you didn't let their behavior turn you bitter. It's waking up in the morning with a peace that's not dependent on who stays, who leaves, or who finally admits the truth. Silence isn't the absence of action, it's the presence of self-control. And in the realm of spiritual battles, self-control is what wins the war. Because the moment you stop engaging with what's meant to destroy you, you've already won. Part 8: The Rise of the One Who Practiced Restraint. There's a woman I once heard about, publicly humiliated by someone she trusted. They mocked her in front of others, twisted her story, and made sure she was the punchline in rooms she couldn't defend herself in. Everyone expected her to lash out, to fight back, to drag them down with the truth. But she didn't. She stayed silent, not because she was weak, but because she understood something most people never do. Retaliation might make you feel powerful for a moment, but it also keeps you tied to the very people and pain you're trying to escape. So instead, she poured her energy into her own growth. She rebuilt her life piece by piece, in private, without broadcasting every step. And 3 years later, she had built something extraordinary. A thriving business, a book with her name on the cover, a relationship that honored her. Meanwhile, the person who tried to tear her down, still stuck in the same cycle, still chasing shallow validation, still running the same tired game, hoping for applause that never comes. That's the beauty of restraint. It's not passive, it's powerful. It turns you into someone untouchable, not because you've become cold or bitter, but because you've healed so deeply that their reach no longer extends to where you stand. And here's the thing most people don't realize. The most terrifying thing to those who hurt you is your growth. Because it proves that their attempt to break you failed. It shows that their version of the story doesn't define you. You've written a better one. When you refuse to match their chaos, you don't just survive, you rise. And the higher you rise, the smaller their world becomes in comparison. So if you've been wronged, humiliated, or underestimated, remember this. The sweetest victory isn't making sure they see your success. It's living in a way where you don't even care if they do. Because your life speaks for itself. And it's saying, you couldn't stop me, you only made me stronger. You didn't lose, you were preserved, protected, and yes, upgraded. The silence you chose was never weakness. It was your weapon. And the most powerful part? You didn't even have to swing it, because God saw everything. Every tear you didn't show, every word you didn't say, every battle you didn't fight out loud. He was your witness. Justice is already moving, even if you can't see it. Not in the loud, dramatic way people expect, but in the quiet, precise way that changes everything at exactly the right time. And when that time comes, it won't just be about what happens to them. It will be about the life you've built in the meantime. Because here's the truth. The next chapter isn't being written by those who tried to destroy you. It's being written by you, by your discipline, your healing, your resilience. You are not defined by what broke you, but by how you rose after it. So let them talk. Let them think they got away with it, while they're stuck in the past. You're building your future, a future where your peace is worth more than proving a point. And your growth is louder than any revenge could ever be. Say it out loud, not for them, but for yourself. I choose peace over revenge. I choose growth over bitterness. Because the moment you choose that, you've already won.